God bless everyone. I'm going to be doing a couple of videos. This will be a teaching series called Denominations. It'll go into the various aspects into why denomination exists, look at the negative and the positive aspects, and it's something really fascinating. We're going to look a little bit of church history. We won't go as in-depth because there's a lot of denominations that exist today. And we're going to be talking about Christianity in terms of the different forms, and they will try to cover as much things as possible, or however it'll be a summary, and just some of the things that I felt in my heart to share. And it's important to know because there's a lot of different congregations, different churches, different governing bodies, different denominations, and there's different positions towards this. Some people believe that denominations are man-made and not God-made. Some people even go further and say they're Satan influenced because he made them. And obviously, a lot of the that go in the extreme, they say that because you know what? Because there's divisions, and really the person who makes divisions and quarrels and all that is the devil. So, are denominations from God? Are denominations from man? We'll discuss a lot of things dealing with these things, and it's very important. Personally, I've been through throughout my life, living in different parts of the world, encountered different types of churches, different types of liturgy, and so I have a little bit of understanding, and kind of motivated me to do these teaching series, especially for people. Well, it'll be interesting for a lot of people, different reasons. One, for people that have been growing up in the same church, the same denomination, so they basically have not gone out of that four walls and interacted with other denominations, other people in other churches and within the Christian denomination. And so sometimes you get this idea of how certain people in other denominations think or act, and really it's a kind of it's based on just either you read it or you heard it secondhand, but you haven't actually interacted with the person. So there's important for those type of people, for those that have hopped around different types of denominations, they can get thinking which one is right, which one is correct, and they can get disillusioned. So a variety of reasons it's important to know. Like some people might come, so which church should I join? Which denomination should I join? So these are very important questions, and I'm going to see if I can, in these video series, I hope and pray that God sets some lights throughout the different information that we'll share in terms of going into church history and some of the foundations, what really is a church of God, talking about God's church. So it's based from that. Personally, like I said earlier, I grew up I was dedicated to the Lord in the Mennonite church, and I spent my schooling system in the Roman Catholic school systems. So I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with the Roman Catholic system. I'm familiar with like I said, the Mennonite and the Baptist system. I was born again and water baptized in a Pentecostal church, Assemblies of God, and I was married in a Nazarene church. So I'm familiar with the Pentecostal movement, charismatic movement, and the holiness movement through the Nazarene. And at the same time, I've worked with other believers and in other organizations where a multiple different interdenomination, for instance, one board group or certain organization I worked with had a variety of people from various denominations, and it was very beneficial because I learned a lot. We had someone representing the Salvation Army, the Christian Missionary Alliance, Presbyterian, Reformed, and Baptist, and Brethren in Christ. So yeah, it was really interesting to see the different theological views on certain subjects and certain topics. And so it's very important and to understand that we are one, that concept that we are one in Christ, to understand what is a Christian. Is it someone who goes to a certain church, a certain denomination, or is it somebody who believes in something, who puts his trust in the Lord? So just a lot of things that I'm throwing out there, and just sort of like an introduction of what I'm going to be talking about, various things. And it took getting information from various backgrounds and various sources, and a lot of from personal, as I said. And so it was going to be a blessing, and I hope and pray that you'll be edified and learn a little bit more if you didn't know about certain parts of the Christian church in terms of the roots and where everything came from. The history is very important. Like I said in other videos, history is very important, and getting to the root. So like I said, there's denominationism. From one aspect, you can look at it in terms of different flavors. Some churches specialize in different things. Like take, for instance, Salvation Army, more of a social system. They have a lot of focus on helping, tangible, hands-on help in terms of the needy, the poor, the orphan, those in prison. And certain denominations are known for certain things. Let's take the Baptist and the Anabaptist. It was adult baptism. You look at the Mennonite, you automatically think of peacekeepers, and obviously the lack of technology. However, we'll find out that there's a variety of different types of people that are groups within the Mennonite and the Anabaptist denominations or faiths within Christianity. So we have that. We have so automatically when you think of denominations, certain things come up. So and sometimes it could be wrong in terms of when we generalize a lot of time. I've been in certain churches when you're just visiting or for an event, and the minister talks about a denomination, and they preach about it as if get the impression that all these people that belong to such and such denomination believe this. And when in fact it's wrong, because there's different types. Like let's take for the Baptists, there's Southern Baptists, there are Fundamental Baptists, there are Free Will Baptists, and so on and on. Same with the Pentecostal. We have the classic Pentecostal, more traditional Pentecostals, which is the same. We have neo-Pentecostal, we have third wave, charismatics, a lot of terminology. So, and it's very important to understand. We also have Church of God, which is also holiness and Pentecostal. So there's a lot of flavor, a lot of specialities. But the most important thing is that believe in Jesus Christ. We'll find that they're Christian. That's obviously the most important thing that a person should identify with if they're a believer in Christ. So if you believe in the extremes, let's say that they're from the devil, it's interesting because if you look at how it came about, taking the Roman Catholic system, if there wasn't the Reformation, there would still be a lot of abuse in the church, in the official church, which at the time was the same. The state and church was together. Roman Empire and the church united. So there would be a lot of abuse. There would be indulgences, and there would be a lot of abuse by the clergy on the common people. And so there needs to be reformed, and many times God permits this. And we'll see. We'll look into it later on. So obviously there's pros and cons. I'll try to be as impartial as I said in the beginning, taking all the different information from studies and personal from interacting and personally having been in different denominations and churches, interaction with fellow believers from different faiths within the Christianity in terms of denominations. So we have some extremes in terms of negative. What happens when some churches stay in a comfort zone and move away from the roots, foundational Christian roots. In Canada, take that, for instance, an example of the United Church. In the beginning, it started in 1925, a mix between two groups, the Presbyterian and Methodist. They joined together, and the United Church of Canada was born. Now, if you look at the United Church of Canada today, in the 21st century, it's totally different on several fronts, speaking in doctrine, the teachings. It's more liberal in terms of they have different views from 1925, dealing with family, dealing with social issues like abortion. And so there's that negative aspect in terms of a denomination going towards away from the roots, staying in a comfort zone. And also we have an idea of that in the Amish, which was founded by Jacob Ammon, who broke away from the Mennonite. And so they're basically stuck in that technological lack of technology in almost 300 years back. And so that's a negative aspect of that. So they didn't change. God bless everyone.